is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
JJ Wang, guess what?
Chicken butt. Oh,
It is celebration here with the Fantasy Couriers. We are celebrating 150 episodes.
oh, nice.
And the little podcast that could has over 3,000 downloads or listens. It was close last week. I'm like, oh, is it going to make it? It would go double with 150. So to start out, that's pretty amazing. Thanks to everybody out there who gives your precious time to listen to us ramble on and basically have therapy.
Yeah, much appreciated. I know there's very little time in this world, and I'm glad everybody spends 30 minutes a week listening to us. I'm hoping we can help you out a little bit. Not sure how much we can help you out, but I feel like our knowledge is somewhat good. I feel like we got a good idea here and there. But yeah, I appreciate everybody.
I mean, we eat, drink, sleep, and think nothing about fantasy. It's in our DNA, so we might as well spill it out of our mouth. Versus the chickens don't want to listen to us. I don't think so. That's pretty much. So the start of fantasy football season is always in with Scott Fishbowl. If you listen to other podcasts, you hear a lot about Scott Fishbowl, and I've been trying for years to get a Courier's entry in there. Never got in. This year I got in what's called a Mirror Bowl, which could, if I win, get a free entry into the Scott Fishbowl. But my Scott Fishbowl Mirror Bowl League, which shout out to Scott Fishbowl Mirror League 52. It was a cool bunch of dudes. We chatted through guys from all over the country. Give you a quick super rundown of what could get the Fantasy Couriers known in the Scott Fishbowl of the DJ Dove team here. Give me a 30-second blurb of what you think as we go through it. Quarterback, here we go. So it's a super flex. Lamar Jackson, Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Tyler Higbee, Cam Akers, Aaron Jones, Tua, and it's got a kicker. Kicker points are crazy wild. Like I get 3.3 for every extra point. McPherson from Cincinnati. The bench is Baker, Jason Saunders, Chris Boswell, Chig, Romeo Dobbs, Kate Otten, Isaiah Hodgins, Allen Robinson, Pierre Strong, and Kyle Trask and Dalvin Cook.
I mean, sounds like a strong team. I think probably Chig will probably end up being your tight end over Tyler Higbee, probably even before the season starts. I can see him probably filling in there. But yeah, I mean, you're running quarterbacks are great. You got a nice set of running backs there. I mean, I think you got a good team. I mean, I wouldn't be upset with that.
It's best ball, so that's the challenge of it. Like, is having to figure out. So I have a handful of tight ends there. Like a tight end needs a touchdown, boom, they're a tight end one that week. Or the kickers. I was like, I was going to draft a kicker in this. Like kickers went early because of the value of them, and I was like, whoa, I'm going to draft a kicker next round. Then there was a run. I was like, they're thinking like I am. This is not good. And I was glad McPherson dropped me because I think that the Bengals are going to score some. Well, maybe we'll see what happens with Joe Burrow's calf, which we'll have to keep an eye on as well. And so we got.
Speaking of Joe Burrow's calf, as I was watching that injury, I realized that he definitely skips leg day every day. Like I don't think he has ever had a leg day. Yeah, Burrow, but I don't think he's had a leg day in 14 years.
I might need to call him, though, with my calves and thighs. I'm rolling. So last 3 bits of housekeeping, then we're going to roll on in. My rankings are up. DJ Dub's Fantasy Pros rankings. They are keeping me on. We'll see how long they keep me around before they kick me out for doing terrible. My draft rankings I got up this week. If you get a chance, check us out on Apple Podcasts. Most of our listeners are Apple Podcasters. Give us a review. That'll help more people hear the Fantasy Couriers. I'm learning little tricks of the trade from different groups I'm in. But if you're on there, just give us a review. 5 stars would be much appreciated. That'll help us get up, write a couple words, get people up, and we got a cool little we got our first cool YouTube comment about enjoying the show. I was like, hey, people are listening. Yeah. So before we jump into today's discussion, Saquon Barkley signed. Where do you put Saquon? And now that we know he's going to be a Giant, he's going to play. He didn't tell his teammates to go flip off. What are we going to do with him?
I guess you just fit him back in wherever you had him before the whole controversy. I'd be top 5 running back. I mean, obviously he's going to get all the work. They don't have much backup centerpiece of the offense. But I will say the contract makes absolutely no sense compared to what he was getting before. It makes literally no sense.
Along those lines, Does Jonathan Taylor play for the Indianapolis Colts this year? Him and Ursay are in a bitter, well, a Twitter feud. So, a make-believe fight.
Well, if he doesn't play for the Colts, he's not playing football because Jim Irsay is not a guy you really want to mess around with. He is straight. He is straightforward on this. He said it earlier. They signed the players' agreement. This is what it is. If the running backs want something different, they're going to have to work a little harder when it comes to the agreement. And Irsay's not the guy to fight this battle with. I mean, he will stick to his guns. So he either plays for the Colts or he doesn't play at all.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Small minor injury, Garrett Wilson, low ankle sprain. If there's ever been good news about an ankle sprain, thank goodness it's a low ankle for all you Wilson owners and Rodgers owners and Jets fans.
Yeah, I don't want to say I kind of ignore injuries at this point, but I kind of ignore injuries at this point.
Injury that has people worried a smidge. On a scale of 1 to 10, speaking of Joe Burrow's chicken legs, calf strain, they haven't necessarily said.
I'm not worried.
Not even at all?
He just doesn't play in the preseason or anything like that, and he's ready to go week 1.
Does it solidify you as 100% Jefferson is the number 1 wide receiver? Just in case.
Not really, because I don't think Burrow is going to miss any time.
Oh, so is Chase your number 1? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, it's possible.
You have them in tier 1.
Like I said, you could go either way on that. I'm not going to argue either point, but I don't see this affecting Jamar Chase though.
So this week we're going to talk about a lot of guys at this point. If you're listening to podcasts, most of them are going to talk about top 10 rankings, guys in the top 10, their top tiers, and we'll hit some of those in the upcoming month because people ask for them. We give the people what they want. It's JJ Wang's least favorite time of year, the ranking season, but his tiers are pretty money, so listen to him when he gives them to you. Won't do us any good because our redraft is this weekend coming up, our auction league. But what we're going to look at is we're going to look at it a different way. There are top 10 rankings all around. And generally speaking, a handful of those guys in the top 10 are going to totally fall on their face and not amount to anything. And some guy from outside the top 10 is going to jump into the top 10. So what we're going to look at this week is guys that we think could make the jump. Guys we think that are generally, our guys are generally, from what I'm looking at, are outside the top 15, maybe even the top 20, that could make the jump into being a top 10 fantasy option at their position. We got guys for each of the major positions, and we'll toss around, argue guys whether we think it's possible or not from each other, and see where we get. And then you can, if you have ideas from outside of the Couriers podcast round, pop them to us and we can argue them next week and be like, hey, you guys are smarter than us, or you guys are crazy. There is no way that Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Listen to last week's show, hear us going about that. So we're going to start at quarterback. Your take is bold. Mine's not as bold as I think your take is. JJ, tell us about your guy.
So what I wanted to do here was I wanted to go Sam Howell. I wanted to go Desmond Ridder. I even wanted to go Kenny Pickett because I feel like those guys have the most room to grow here. And I really like Sam Howell, especially with the running ability that he also possesses. And I think the offense is going to be really well. But I went Jordan Love here, and I think Jordan Love looked okay in his few appearances last year. I think the offense is set. They got a great running game. They got some good wide receivers. And honestly, I know this has nothing to do with it at all, but I'm just riding the train of great Packers quarterbacks here. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and I'm thinking, you know what? I think we do it again. With a quarterback that's been in the league 3 or 4 years before they start. Favre was the same way, played for Atlanta, got traded to the Packers, boom. Rodgers got drafted, set 3 years, and then boom. You know what? It's not great rhyme or reason, but you know what? If the train's running, I'm going to hop on, and I'm going to go Jordan Love here.
That would be so unfair, wouldn't it? Like, it would make them the most genius franchise. Like, I love how the franchises run anyway. Them, the Steelers, the Giants. I mean, to me, those are the top tier, like, organizations. Probably the Patriots, the Kraft now. But, I don't know. He is a guy, like, right now, Fantasy Pros, since I'm part of that, I'll use them as our consensus. He is the consensus number 21. the consensus number 21 quarterback. So for him to get into the top 10, if we're looking at what we got, the guys that we got to go, they got to knock out Dak, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. So they got to jump ahead of one of those. Deshaun, I think, is the guy I think both of us think could drop out of there possibly or go up to 3. Like those are basic as outcomes. But
I will say quarterback's the hardest position because I feel like it's pretty much the same 10 quarterbacks every year, and every now and then one will jump in there. But this was probably the hardest one. I'm looking like I said, after 14, they're pretty much all the same anyway. So you're just hoping the guy that you get is the one.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Love, he's the guy. Like, yeah, I got no argument one way or another. I need a sample size. You're going on history, which sounds like a great way they're set up. It's kind of like the Colts with their great run, and then all of a sudden Andrew Luck got hurt and screwed all that up. Maybe Richardson will bring him back to quarterback relevancy. So yeah, like no arguments here. As you said, yeah, it does. What you said totally makes sense. I wanted to say Matthew Stafford because I think all those pieces are back together, but I've got to go with the guy, the train that I'm on, the train I'm hitching my wagon to. I might even have to move him up into my what's the name of my guys? What do we call them again?
Guys.
Our top guys, into my top guys, and that's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is not, and it's not. It has nothing to do with Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson last year. You know what's funny? He was better last year. He got more yards in Denver than he did in Seattle the year before. Less touchdowns and more interceptions. That's what flipped him back the other way. So it was probably a relatively close, without me having on Pro Football Reference, but he was seen as like the most terrible quarterback in the NFL. And then this week, Sean Payton throws last year's coaching staff under the bus and then apologizes like a champ because he has to because of PR, but told the truth. Hackett did a terrible job. Now you're bringing in Sean Payton, a guy whose offenses are always at the top. You're giving him Russell Wilson, who's an experienced quarterback. At 35, you can still be a quarterback. I think this was the year 35-36 when Aaron Rodgers made that magic flip around. Give him those weapons that he's got. Javonte Williams could possibly be playing. We'll see. It could be like Chris Godwin where he doesn't pick up till later. P. Ryan is a great receiving back. Dulcich is the weapon. He's got everything around him to succeed. And Russell Wilson's been a top 10 quarterback. So he could easily, with your boy Jerry Jeudy, Sutton, Mims, if Hamler comes back to a lesser extent, Tim Patrick, all those guys, I could totally see Russell Wilson making that jump. He's a consensus 17 right now, jumping up into the top 10.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, anybody from that 13, 14 on can possibly jump into that top 10. Russell Wilson wasn't good. We're all hoping that Sean Payton is the one that can turn it around. The weapons are there. Defense is okay. But like I say, it's up to Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson can, get back to that, not maybe all the way to the Russ in Seattle, but a little farther in it, it wouldn't take much for him to be in the top 10.
Yeah. So moving on to running back, I didn't go very brave. My guy was Miles Sanders, but I think I've talked about him too much on the show. So I couldn't do Miles Sanders. Then I was like Cam Akers, but we've talked about him too much. They're 19 and 20. And then I look deeper. There's nobody that really grabs me as the guy that can jump on. So I only went shortly outside of the top 10, but a guy that I don't think will be drafted by most home leagues where he's ranked. It's the consensus, and I'm looking at half-point PPR. Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, pretty much to most people, is left for dead. They want nothing to do with Joe Mixon because he's, 27 now, being 28. But he's older running back. But the thing about Joe Mixon is, as I just said, Samaje Perine is now in Denver, and he was the receiving back. This is his age 27 year for Joe Mixon. He is on a high-powered offense. He had not a great year, even though everybody's like, it was a great fantasy year. It wasn't that great. He only had 814 yards last year. He scored a quarter of his points in that one game. What was it, 4 or 5 touchdowns? Most of his points there. But he wants to be in Cincinnati, which I think will signal something to them. He's there for this year, maybe next year, because he took the contract reduction, but he's on a high-powered offense. He's going to get the catches. He's going to get the runs. He's going to get the touchdowns, and they're not going to fill the box up because those receiving threats are so disgustingly amazing. And imagine if Irv Smith takes that next step that we thought he would take years ago, how deadly that team could be. And if old Chicken Legs is playing this year, he's going to be like, hey, we're within 3 yards. There's going to be 3 guys on Chase. Boom, Joe Mixon touchdown. Boom, Joe Mixon touchdown. I could see Joe Mixon. I mean, if I want to be Super Bowl, why can't Joe Mixon jump up there 6 or 7?
I don't. You said the fantasy is kind of people have left him for dead. I think maybe they might have left him for dead before they redid his contract. I think by the time draft season picks up fully, I think Joe Mixon is going to be right there being drafted in that 10 to 15 range because it's like you said. Once people start investigating, looking into it, they'll see that there is literally no one else for them to turn and hand the ball to. He's going to get the run game, or of course he's going to get the runs. He's going to get in the passing game. He's going to be the touchdown guy. So when they're close, he's going to be the guy that gets all the carries. And I don't see it as a very far stretch at all for him to be a top 10.
Oh, sweet, cool. Honorable mention then, I guess, to Aaron Jones. But I'll talk about him.
I mean, that's possible.
He's a guy I've never been.
My guy is definitely. I feel everybody's pretty much given up on this guy. I think has been left for dead, but I think with the change of scenery and the fact that when he does play, he is very, very good. And it's not like. And I was reading earlier. It's not like all of his injuries are the same injury. It's something different every year. And I'm thinking at some point he's going to get lucky, and he's going to have a full season. And that's Rashad Penny. He's coming to a better. I know everybody just laughed and chuckled and threw up in their mouth when I said that. That's fine. Got no big deal. You're not paying a lot for him. You don't have to give up anything. You drafted him late. But if you need that chance, I think this is the guy. He's going to come in, and I think from the get-go, he's going to show that, he is the man there. He's going to get the early down work. He's probably going to get the touchdown work. We've seen what Miles Sanders done. I think Rashad Penny, when healthy, is a better running back than Miles Sanders. I know they brought in DeAndre Swift, but we all know DeAndre Swift's issues as well, more the receiving back. And I think Rashad Penny behind that line with that good team and the amount that they can run the ball, I think there is real possibility here for Rashad Penny to maybe finally have that breakout year.
So this would be the number 36th overall half-point PPR running back, Rashad Penny. Everybody loves DeAndre Swift. So Rashad Penny, you can probably get him in the last round of probably 10th, 11th, 12th, maybe even waivers of your league. If you're in Dynasty, would you grab him for a third round?
Yeah, I mean, I would get him super. I mean, I got him in a league, and if I could get him for a third round pick, something like that, maybe something minuscule, I would absolutely pick him up because if he's healthy, he's going to get the ball. He's going to be the RB1 on that team. But the problem is, it's not if, it's pretty much when at this point in his career. But I'm thinking there's going to be a year where he doesn't get hurt and he finally has just that 1 year to pay back all these dreadful years that he's had.
Oh, his problem, he got drafted by Seattle and was told, we're not doing anything with you. And then all he did when he was healthy was kill it. You know that his average yard per rush, just take a wild guess. What do you think this number is? It's ridiculous.
5.7.
You looked it up.
I already knew it. This is
it's disgusting.
This is who I'm choosing. Yeah. He's, like I said, he's been great when he's playing.
So, yeah, I mean, I can't – the only thing is, does the coaching staff love Kenneth Gainwell too much to be stubborn? But, yeah, Rashad Penny.
I'm sorry. They wouldn't – if they loved Kenny Gainwell, they wouldn't have brought in Swift and Penny.
Well, it's the NFL. You can, if I have – I don't care if you have Jonathan Taylor. If you can get Rashad Penny for the price, his salary is, I forget, astronomically low. DeAndre Swift still on that rookie contract, astronomically low. You're going to get as many running backs as you can, get as much talent in that room because ask the Colts last year. Jonathan Taylor went down. Oh, their whole season went to, and they had Matt Ryan. But,
true, but if they thought Gainwell was, that good, they wouldn't have brought in 2 running backs that are better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I love the Rashad Penny call. I think it's a brave call because it's one that it's almost like me banking on Tua, right? If Tua doesn't hit his head, he's very top quarterback. If Rashad Penny is healthy, that dude's got the talent. Could he be the next Fred Jackson? I mean, that's our comp, right? Fred Jackson had
Yeah.
that late in career where he just went crazy. I mean, but he was like 30 when he got it. Also, I mean, this would be 3 years earlier. So, I mean, yeah, I like it. I like it. Tell us about your receiver. I almost picked his running mate, actually.
So my receiver, this is a guy that I'm really high on. I wanted to go with his quarterback earlier and Sam Howell, and I'm going to go to Jahan Dotson here, the second year wide receiver. Guy scores a lot of touchdowns. He scored a lot of touchdowns in the beginning of the season. Got hurt, come back, kept scoring touchdowns, got the yards. The offense gets better. I think of course, the offense is going to get better. They brought in a better offensive coordinator. I think it's an upgrade at quarterback,
Much better.
definite upgrade at quarterback because they were terrible. Uh, and I think it might be a bold take, but I think John Dotson starts to take over that wide receiver one role here in Washington. And I think with the touchdowns, the probably doubling the targets, not doubling the targets, but doubling the yards, increase or the catches, the yards goes way up. And I seriously think this is a legitimate contender here.
Yeah, I mean, really, it all hinges on Hal. I know you're all in on Hal. In one of our leagues, JJ Wang this week traded David Montgomery and a second for Sam Howell and a super flex for a quarterback. Yeah. I was getting messages, and I said, I will not interfere in this because it will come back to nip me in the butt as it was going through. But, yeah, I mean, Johnson started out, man, he started out on fire last year. And if that goes on, I mean, and it helps to be across the side. Like I almost picked Terry McLaurin because Terry McLaurin is an underrated stud. Like Terry McLaurin's been a consistent, great receiver with not great quarterback play. So if Sam Howell can even be, if he's the guy that we as a community thought he was 3 years ago before he got drafted, like he was going to be the rookie QB1, right?
Yeah.
And he went back and came out later. And there's a lot of talk about him being super high, great quarterback. He's got two great weapons there. Logan Thomas as an older guy, but he'll to be the dump off guy. And the running backs are great. That there's the thing that helps players is having other good players around. If you're the only good player, it's harder to get in the top 10. It doesn't happen as much. But if you have all these weapons and you're the best of the weapons, yeah, he could easily jump up there. Do I think that this is a top 10 year? I might not think that. I could see him going from like right now. Our guys are back to back. He's 30. He is close. He's 35 on Fantasy Pros half point PPR. I could see him hitting top 20, top 10. That has him like Garrett Wilson is the number 10. So
yeah, I mean, like I don't. Receivers are kind of hard too because I think the top 10
they can jump like a champ too.
They're pretty much locked in. I don't see a lot of the top 10 receivers changing. I wanted to go Jerry Jeudy here, but we all know my feelings about Jerry Jeudy. I wanted to go Brandon Ayuk. We all know my feelings on Brandon Ayuk. I think both of those guys have the possibility to do it as well. But we all know how I feel about them. I want Jahan Dotson here. I think the offense is going to be better than we thought.
I mean, top 10, we're looking at Jefferson, Chase, Kupp, Hill, Diggs, Lamb, A.J. Brown, Adams, St. Brown, and Garrett Wilson. So, I mean, really the only two guys we could even think about not being top 10, barring a collapse in New York, would be probably Devontae Adams with Garoppolo and Amon-Ra if Jameson Williams catches on, right? Or a drop in the Lions. Those would be the two guys you're looking at. So, yeah, I like Jahan. I like the Commanders or whatever their future name is going to be, a receiving core. And I forgot last week to congratulate Washington fans. Congratulations. You are free of the Snyderverse, just like DC is free of the Snyderverse, which I kind of liked. No, I don't like this Snyderverse. DC, there was a celebration. My buddy Grant Paulson does a show up here for 106.7. They had like a party outside where they had people in the audience like just celebrating that they are free. Hopefully the new ownership can turn the once proud franchise to at least be a competitive franchise and something that we're not laughing at in the Virginia area. So jumping on, my guy, I've talked about him some, and it's half PPR, so it's based totally upon receptions. And I mean, I think I was listening to another podcast earlier talking about I think the Steelers are not going to be as terrible as they were last year. I believe Najee's going to be a consistent guy. I like Kenny Pickett, but I think this is the Miles Sanders theory is why Deontay Johnson was terrible last year. When you get 0 touchdowns, you are useless for fantasy. 0. But then again, if you have 147 targets, you're pretty stinking useless in a PPR league. but he brought in 86, so that's not good. But I think Kenny Pickett's got to get better, right? He's got to be more accurate this year.
Well, he
Pickett,
got better. He got better
you
as the
watched him, yeah,
season
oh
went
yeah,
on.
yeah. I raved about him. Watching him, only watched him a couple of times, specifically full games, and I really think a lot of people are underestimating Allen Robinson being in there, being a third receiver. He could be a receiver that teaches some of these young guys. I mean, Deontay falls in between Pickett and Robinson, but with him being a target hog, a target monster there, he's still got he got 10.3, which is down from 10.9, 10.5. He still has the average receptions there to be getting a target and half point PPR, a very valuable receiver. And if you're a full point PPR, that booms him up the board like no tomorrow. So Deontay Johnson's my guy. I think I'm worried about Pickens, and we talked about that. I love Pickens, but I just think Deontay Johnson's gonna be the best receiver on that team.
I mean, it's very possible. I mean, constantly gets targets over the years. Even on a bad year last year, he got a whole bunch. Like you said, he only pulled in 80 some. Not great. Of course, you would think that goes up. You would hopefully think he would at least get 5-6 touchdowns. I don't like we said earlier, it's going to be hard to jump in that top 10. But I can see a world where the Pittsburgh offense is way better and this is able to work. But there are a lot of receiving targets to go around there. Of course, Najee catches a lot of balls. Freiermuth is still going to be highly involved. Of course, you got Allen Robinson and George Pickens. So I mean, I don't know how much they're going to throw the ball. I mean, that's kind of what it depends on, though. But I can see a world.
Yep. Okay, real quick. This won't take a long time because God only knows which tight ends could be the top 10. We know that there's 2 that will be at the top, and after that, it's a wait and see. There's a couple guys we think will be top 10, but it really comes down to who is going to get touchdowns this year. Who do you got?
I went with Juwan Johnson here. I mean, it took me a while to come around to this guy because I was a huge Adam Troutman guy. But this guy is athletic. He's big. He's a touchdown guy. And look, David Carr in Las Vegas, what did he do? He targeted Darren Waller, a big athletic tight end. And what is Juwan Johnson? A big athletic tight end. There is only one other wide receiver on that team, Chris Olave. They got Michael Thomas, but we don't know how much he's going to play. Chris Olave. So we know there's going to be options there available for him to throw it. And I think, like you said, it's only going to take 40 yards and a touchdown for him to be a top 10 tight end. And I think this is his year with the better quarterback play.
I you know me, I was the Juwan Johnson truther 2 years ago, right? When we had the big argument last year, we were like, it's the Saints. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I think I like it. The only thing that worries me about him is they have brought how many tight ends? They got a handful of tight ends there that they have on that. I mean, Jimmy Graham. They just signed Jimmy Graham, but I was curious about how Foster Moreau comes back from his cancer. Like if it was like the Roman Reigns, how Roman Reigns went out for like basically 3 months and came back ginormously healthy with a quick
that never happened. So.
The conspiracy there, but how he comes back, because I know Foster Moreau does have the connection with Carr, and the speaking always has been, if you get Moreau out of Vegas, could he be great for another team? So that'd be the curious. Like, I love Juwan Johnson. I can argue with him, and I think, yeah, as we're doing it, basically, if you're looking for the guy you think's going to be the best top 10 tight end, go out there, don't draft him early, and just pick like 1 or 2 and see who starts out strong and roll with him. And it's like playing craps every week. I could use Chig here, but I talk about him enough, or Schultz enough. I'm going to use a guy that I haven't talked about for a while, and because he was terrible last year, Mike Gesicki. Quite possibly the antithesis of how George Kittle plays football. Mike Gesicki could not block you or me, and he could eat us for lunch. 6'6", 247, but that dude is athletic as all get up, can catch a lot of balls, and can run great routes. So in New England, it's going to be a different thing. He's not going to have to block. He's going to be the receiving tight end. He's going to be the Aaron Hernandez to the Hunter Henry Gronk. And the other options are what? Juju, the rookie, that like nothing super stellar up there. They fell out on D-Hop. So if the Patriots are going to score, I'm going to assume the tight ends are going to get touchdowns. On a terrible year last year, he had 362 and 5 touchdowns. He's had 5 touchdowns on a team that did not want to give him the ball last year. he could be their touchdown guy this year. Mac Jones likes throwing to the tight end. I mean, Hunter Henry was a viable tight end last year. So I could totally see them two getting almost all of the touchdowns for the team. I mean, Henry had what? He had 9 2 years ago. Last year only had 2, but those two, I was wrong my stats there. Those two could easily both get 8 touchdowns. That's all the touchdowns Mac Jones throws for. Because Juju will be like the Deontay Johnson on the team. But yeah, Mike Gesicki, I'm throwing it out there.
I mean, like in the tight end landscape, anything is possible. He's an athletic big dude, so I mean, we're going to rely on touchdowns here. That's what we got to, like I said, that's what we got to rely on. The offense isn't great. We know they're going to run the ball a lot. Probably not going to throw it deep. Mac Jones is probably going to start cursing because he's not allowed to open up the offense. But maybe Gesicki might help him open up that offense just a little bit. Like I said, it doesn't take much.
And to close that out, man, I hope Zeke doesn't sign there. That's going to kill Ramondre's touchdowns. Ramondre will then become the 20-20, and Zeke will be the 5. Zeke will have 200 yards and 12 touchdowns or something stupid. So those were our guys we think could jump into the top 10 over the next couple weeks. I'm going to give you. We're going to close out with 2 things. DJ Dub's redraft tips as draft season's coming up, and then JJ Wang's weekly wisdom. So I got 4 tips for you to think about as you're going into draft. This week, JJ Wang and I have our big fun draft. We do an auction draft with a bunch of guys in the room. We just shoot the breeze, talk football for about 5-6 hours, eat some grilled out meat and snacks, and we just auction off, and it's just a blast to have. I mean, half the time, most of us enjoy the draft more than actually doing the league throughout the rest of the year because it's just a fun day. But number 1, I got 4 tips for you to get through this week. Before you go into a draft, number 1 thing to do is research. Know what's going on in the NFL. Don't show up into a draft and draft the guy that's out for the year. You don't have to be as nerdy as me and JJ Wang and spend a couple hours a week podcast or reading or looking into stuff, but don't be that guy that does that. So come in knowing at least who's hurt, realize, oh, this guy's not going to play this year. Don't draft injured players, but know what's going on, know what's in that. Number 2, and go for it.
No, I would say that's pretty important. Know what's going on. That's a very good tip.
Followed by know your league rules. If your
another good tip, yeah.
If your league is a 1 quarterback league, and we have an auction draft, ours is 2 quarterback. Don't spend $60 on a quarterback if it's a 1 quarterback league because there's 32. Last year, I think what they say, 44 quarterbacks started a game or something like that, some ridiculous number. So you don't need a gajillion guys. If your league gives 2 points for tight ends, yeah, you might need to look at tight ends, but it's like a wide receiver 3. If your league gives touchdown bonuses, know what your league is and see where it falls within players. Don't just go, oh, I like this guy, when that Zeke stat I just made up, if a guy gets 2 points for a reception, Zeke getting touchdowns is comparable to Jahmyr Gibbs getting none.
I'm not going to lie. I can tend to fall into this category.
All of us do, yeah.
People invite me to leagues and I just jump on, and I don't think I've ever looked at any league that I'm in, unless the ones I'm commissioning, and check the rules. I mean, it's fantasy football, and at the end of the day, unless there's some wacky, rule, I mean, it's all pretty much the same. But yeah, knowing the rules will help you. It will help you, but I can't say I follow that tip 100%.
It came to get me when I was doing that Scott Fishbowl. I was like, "Whoa, it's Superflex!" Right as the draft starts. Oh, we get these.
Well, something like that. That's different because that's got different rules every year.
Yeah, and that being said, keep an eye. Next week, I will post up the Fantasy Couriers Bunker Balls League with crazy rules that I created. So I have that coming out as well for people to jump in. Number 3, don't fall into traps of runs or trends. Build your team, but watch out for runs. So JJ Wang is a tier-based drafter. So if you are looking at your tiers and you have 6 receivers on that tier and 4 of them are gone, you probably better draft one of those receivers. But don't just do it because everybody is. So if there's a tight end run and all the good ones are gone, I'm not going to sit here and draft the 3rd-string tight end for the Cowboys because I need a tight end because everyone else did. Wait. Be willing to be patient and wait.
Yeah, it's hard because if you don't start the run, you kind of don't want to jump onto it. I mean, because by the time that run starts, unless you're like the next guy after the run and you're able to get that, but once the run starts, at that point you're gonna have to be like, I'm gonna have to pivot here because it's not really worth me drafting like the eighth tight end when I can get like a better running back that's going to help me more. Absolutely.
And the last one loops back to the first one. The first one was to research. The last one is look at various rankings or research. Don't just go to the first site and go, this is the best ever. Because it could be some dude down the street who just wrote a bunch of names from a fantasy magazine they read in July, which was created in May. Get a consensus. That's why, like, actually, Fantasy Pros is good because it's like, not only because we're on there with an expert, but it is 150 guys averaged based upon there. So look at different places. Don't just stick to one thing unless you want to just be stuck with them, and then you can blame them for everything. But look at different rankings, different tiers, different research, different people's opinions, because that's the best way to win a league and be able to brag for a year versus having the third draft pick next year.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, if you're just looking at one guy, that one guy could have, could just be holding grudge against players. He could drop him 10 spots because he burned him last year. I don't like that guy, so I don't want to drop him. But if you went and check the next guy who's more leveled and doesn't have a grudge, you can raise that guy 10 points higher, and then check the next guy and is at the same spot. So yeah, I agree. Check more than one. You don't have to go in here and check 98 different, rankings, but check 2 or 3, maybe 4, just to get that medium number.
That is, unless the only people you listen to for your fantasy expertise is the Fantasy Couriers, then you're probably going to win your league. Ask Jeff.
Probably.
So, JJ Wang, we're closing out. Give us some weekly wisdom as we are heading into the recording after this will be in August. Can you believe that? Like next week, my favorite player in the world ever is going into the Hall of Fame. Zach Thomas has the first speech. I am so excited. But give us some wisdom for the week.
So, of course, going into the beginning of the football season, obviously it's list season. Everybody likes to make a list. They bring in a lot of controversy. People like to make these stupid lists just so they can get views and likes and whatnot. So I'm not going to name the lists that I've seen, but I did see 2 lists, and both of these lists include Trevor Lawrence. We both think Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback, right? But according to these lists, so one list had Jamal Williams, the running back, and Geno Smith, both better than Trevor Lawrence. In what world is Geno Smith ever better than Trevor Lawrence? There's not one world ever. And another list, this was probably the most egregious thing I've ever seen. The dude was making some tiers, and he had Jimmy Garoppolo above Trevor Lawrence. In what world
Even I laugh at that.
And Jimmy Garoppolo ever better than Trevor Lawrence? Trevor Lawrence was a top 10 quarterback last year, or close, pretty close. I'm not sure exactly what it was. In no world has Jimmy Garoppolo ever been close to a top 10 quarterback. So how this guy is an NFL Network guy, maybe an ESPN guy, I have no idea. But it's a pretty big name. So you would think someone that smart does not put Jimmy Garoppolo above Trevor Lawrence. This, my friend, is why you need to look at several different lists, because that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. So trust yourself and trust the process.